In this tutorial, we are going to learn how to make a submaster fader. This will allow us to add compression or limiting over the entire mix, and to add a fade in and fade out. I'll start by creating an auxiliary track. Go here, stereo, aux track. If you remember, an aux track is a playthrough track. The audio signal goes through, nothing is recorded on the track. This is perfect. We can send the signal from all these tracks directly through this, and then control the sound somewhat with this, what will be a submaster fader. I'll rename this track. Give it a special color. This is a special track. And right now the output of all the tracks, including the submaster, is routed directly to the audio interface. I'll play a little bit of my session here. Okay, so our goal is to get all of this audio not to go to the interface, but channeled directly into the submaster, so this fader will have control over the entire mix. So what we're doing is creating a bus connection, just like we did with our sends when we sent to the delays and reverbs. So to make it a little easier, I'm going to rename one of my bus cables, if you will. Go to the I/O setup, just choose an unused bus, give it a memorable name. Now when I choose an output here, I can choose that sub bus from the list. And something else that makes it faster, if I want to change the output of all of these tracks to the same bus, which I do, I can hold down the Option key, click on the output, choose bus. There's our newly named sub bus, and notice all the tracks change at once. Actually, I don't want my submaster to go out the sub bus. I want that to go out to the audio interface, which is output 1 and 2, so I'll change that. And the other thing is the input. I need to set the other end of my bus connection as the input. If I press play now, notice there's no sound coming out because it's all being sent down the sub bus cable with no destination. Go to no input, choose bus, choose the sub bus. Now we should hear something. And if I move the submaster, you see it's controlling the level of the entire mix. Okay, the next thing you might want to add is some sort of a limiter. This is a good point in the mix to gently compress it so it blends better, and make sure that you're not getting any clipping going out the main outputs. So I'm going to go to the inserts, and I'm going to choose a dynamic insert. Let me move it so you can see it better. And I'll choose the compressor limiter here. And for this tutorial, we'll just stick with the default settings and make some minor adjustments. Now when I press play, you'll probably hear there's been a change to the timbre of the mix. Hopefully you notice there's kind of a breathing or pumping sound. Some sounds that were loud are softer, softer sounds are louder. This is too strong of a compression for a natural sounding mix. I'll bypass it and play it, and you'll hear the difference, I think. This is with it off. Now if I turn it on again, hear how those bass drum hits are squashed and it's sort of making the synthesizer breathe? That's too much limiting. So we want to find a balance. We want a gentle limiting so that it's more even in actual volume, but we perceive all the dynamics. So if I move this level up, notice that the point where the compression digs into the signal is moving. So I'm going to move it way up here and try again. Now it's sounding a little more natural. I'll probably want to set my volume also of my submaster right at 0. I can move the fader to set that. And you notice when I move a fader, the numbers move pretty quickly down here. It's hard to find 0. Well, there's a little trick to slowing that down. If I hold down the Apple key and move the fader, now the numbers increment slower than my mouse is even moving. See how the mouse is going way past? So this is a great way if you want to find a 0 point or some exact point. Hold down the Apple key and drag very slowly, and you can find exactly 0. There it is. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Maybe I'll set up a little loop here. Select. Now we can kind of check out how the compression is kicking in and out. Also watching the mix window. If I turn it down, now we're getting that pumping sound, too much. And move up, more natural. So you kind of find that balance where it does a little bit of compression, but not too much. This sounds pretty good, about right here. Nothing seems to be clipping in my mix window, so we're in good shape. Now, one last thing. What if I was to bring some of these levels up so that we get a little clipping? Let's just see what happens in the limiter. I'm going to bring it back to the beginning. Take these levels here. Maybe bring the bass drum up. Okay, now the compressor is trying to bring that bass drum down a little bit, but we're still getting clipping. This is where you might want to make additional adjustments in the limiter to try to get rid of that clipping. Probably changing the level of all the inputs. In a later tutorial, we're going to learn how to group all of these faders here, all the audio track faders, or the faders that are playing music as opposed to the submaster, so we can bring them all down relative to each other and not overdrive the limiter or the submaster track. But if we have the levels where they were at, it looks like we have a good level, little gentle compression, no clipping. Last thing, we can add a fade in and fade out. So I'm going to get rid of that. Nice place to do that is in the mix window. In the edit window. Check to see if I'm in grid mode. Yes. Since I'm going to be doing this over an exact number of measures, I'll add a couple edit points. Do our whole fade in. We don't need this point anymore. And add a fade out at the end. So now we've got control over our entire mix. And here's, just to see it, here's our fade out.